Hey, everybody, welcome back to CAF's Heroes of Sport. My name is Bob Babbitt, and I have the privilege every week to interview some of our amazing challenge athletes. This week is absolutely no different. Our guest, Mr. Matthew Robinson, who joins us from Tucson, Arizona. Matthew, how are you?
Hey, I'm great today. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to actually speak to somebody who's made change in so many people's lives. I appreciate it.
Well, we certainly have tried. It's been 28 years, and we've raised over $134 million and sent out over 35,000 grants. And so Matthew, take me back. Growing up, what were your sports?
Lacrosse was my favorite sport, skiing, and then I played a little football, and those are the big ones.
Did you go into the Navy out of high school?
Yes, sir, I did. About a year out of high school, I went into the Navy. My father was a submarine sailor. My brother was a submarine sailor, and I was a surface sailor. So
I was going to say that submarine stuff, man. Claustrophobia is not a good thing if you're going underwater.
Especially the older diesel submarines that they had, where you shared a rack. You actually were only had that your rack was you shared with somebody, so it's pretty crazy.
I remember walking through that U-505 submarine at Museum of Science Industry in Chicago and going, how, and they'd be underwater for months at a time. It was crazy.
Yeah, they could only surface to recharge the batteries. Pretty amazing.
So January 2001, is that when you transitioned to become a police officer?
I was in the process, and that's when I had my snowmobile accident.
And so snowmobile flips, I'm guessing, and you ended up paralyzed?
Yeah. I was out in the field just playing around with a buddy, hitting a jump that we've been hitting, for a month now. And I borrowed somebody else's snowmobile and just hit the jump, doing probably about 25 miles an hour faster than normal, about 70.
About 70?
Yeah.
You're lucky you're here talking to us.
Yes, sir. And very fortunate and thankful.
So that happened in 2001. And by 2002, you're already riding hand cycles. So it seems like you're one of those guys who lives life through the windshield and realizes, hey, I can't do anything about what happened, but I can do something about what happens next.
Yes, sir. I actually tried skiing first, dislocated my shoulder, and it happened a few more times in a short period of time span. So I had surgery and asked, what's a good exercise for my shoulders? And they said, well, you can, we'll get you a hand cycle and you can use that when it's not snowing or raining. I'm from Syracuse, New York. So that's about, 28 days out of the month, it's either snowing or raining.
And so in 2002, we're talking hand cycles, a little prehistoric at that point compared to what they are now.
Oh, night and day difference. I was on an old Freedom Rider that was like you leaned on it to steer it.
Yeah.
Took me a couple days just to figure out how to ride the thing because I kept getting all wiggly wobbly.
Well, I remember when guys came over to do the Ironman triathlon, and Carlos Maleta and those guys, the first hand cycles they came over on were 30 some pounds.
Yeah.
And now they're sub 20.
It's amazing the difference. Carlos, you mentioned him. He was one of the first people I met at a CAF greatest weekend in Tri.
Yes. And so when you meet someone like Carlos, who 5-time Ironman world champion, obviously knows everything there is about the hand cycle. It's one thing to be in a hand cycle. It's another thing to compete in a hand cycle, which when I look at what you do, and I look at, some of the splits sort of blew me away a little bit when I see you went 144 at New York City Marathon, you've done Ragbra, and even this year, I think you're having a pretty amazing year. You were 5th at a time trial in Tucson, and you were up at the U.S. Paranationals, took 11th in the road race, 13th in the crit, 14th in the TT. Seems like you're racing better than you ever have.
I'm racing, and I'll leave it at that. I don't know that my ability is better than it was, but I'm just happy to be racing. There's a lot of really talented guys out there that work harder and have more capabilities, and so I give a lot of credit to those guys that are out there that are just really. A lot of the guys that you interview each week are guys that I give a lot of credit to, and I'm thankful just to be out there riding, and that's my happy place.
Yeah. Well, and nice thing is being in Arizona, you could, even during this whole COVID time, you could get out on the hand cycle, right? You didn't need to have indoor facilities in order to find your happy place.
I had some a little bit of issues during all that. I had been hit by a car. I was living in Southern California. I'd been hit by a car in January of 2020, and then ended up spending some time in the hospital. I actually got released from the hospital February of 2020, the very end of February, and then March we went into lockdown. So California was great. There was no cars on the road. So as soon as my doctor said I could start riding, I had a cast on my foot, but I was able to get out and ride. But eventually, as more cars came back to the road, I shied away from it. It was a little too much, too quick. So I started riding just the paths, no cars.
So when I look back at some of the cool events you've done, you rode with two other guys and you went, 4,400 miles over 78 days across the US. How fun was that?
That was to date, that was the trip of a lifetime. And I got to give credit to Gerard Uphook and Ricky Rincon. They were they put the first foot in the ground as far as the choice and decision. I jumped on later on, and I just tried to bring as much to the table as I could, and not slow those guys down. They're a couple of those speed demons, and definitely one of those trips that brings you in times when there's a lot of turmoil going on in the country. You get out there and you ride across it, and you meet people, and it restores your faith in good humanity, and all people of all styles, types, whatever. They were out there supporting us and being very helpful, and it really triple lifetime. We're planning another one, actually.
Very cool. And the other part of that is, I think both of us probably think, gosh, because there's so much more awareness with the internet, and people know if they get injured that there's something they can do. They can find hand cycling, find other sports. But I'm guessing when you're traveling across the country, you're finding a lot of people who don't know what's out there, that they've got injuries and they don't know that, well, Challenge Athletes Foundation is out there. There's equipment out there. You can still be an athlete. Was that part of that trip as well?
Absolutely. I think our goal was to make it knowledgeable, that we were open. Come talk to us, come ask us questions. And and the two organizations that have been the most influential to me has been Challenge Athletes Foundation and the Paralyzed Vets of America. Or Jody Shipwood's program. And between those two programs, I mean, that's my loyalty is there, and I believe that anytime that we tried to tell people, we told them, if you're a veteran, you go this route. If you're civilian, you go this route, and if you're having trouble one way or the other, go get a hold of somebody. We're out there. We can point you in a lot of directions.
So it's been 20 years since you were injured.
Yes, sir.
Was there a point, obviously there were low points. Was there a point where you realized, okay, you know what, life moves on and I can still do some really cool stuff?
Yeah. Probably, I think that point presented itself shortly after one of the low points. And it was just another person that said, hey, look, look at everything you've done already since you've been hurt. You know, you've gone to college and got a degree. You've taken up, you know, sports. And honestly, Bob, I never had any desire to compete in anything as an adaptive athlete until I met my friend Gerard and I went to a camp. And you know, shortly after my first year of hand cycling, I started getting, you know, invitations to go here and go there and compete and try and be a better athlete. And what it really did for me is like you said, it opened up both my eyes and said, wow, there's a lot more that I can do and still be competitive. My big sport, and I don't talk much about it, was motocross. I got big into that. It was a little late in life, but I climbed the ladder pretty quick as far as the non-professional ranks, and I loved it. And so that was a letdown at first. Was this thing that I loved, I couldn't do anymore. Yeah. So I had to find something else.
You know, what's fascinating is David Bailey, Ricky James, two motocross guys who obviously both were paralyzed. David training for an event, and Ricky, I think, was actually in a race when Ricky was paralyzed. Both of them came back to do Ironman, and you know, and both of them realized that, hey, well, I'm still an athlete. I can still accomplish a lot. When you're a motocross guy, you know you're on that thin red line, and things can go bad pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And you know, you brought up David, and David was a guy that we raced some during the same era, but I was not at his level at that time, and probably never reached his level. He's was a great inspiration. And then, like I said, you know, when I met Carlos, I didn't know about all his accolades. And then, you know, you just meet this guy and he talks to you. He doesn't pat himself on the back. He just tries to be helpful. And so I took down his name and number, and eventually reached out to him multiple times. And you know, and we had a friendship that grew and is to this day fairly strong. But I remember meeting Ricky James, and I think he got hurt after I did. But man, he jumped right in. And I remember when he was competing to, you know, he was a big time cap athlete, and he was getting ready to compete for a world championship in triathlon. And you know, I'd send him a lot of, you know, social media messages, and you know, wish him well. I think it's amazing what you guys do.
Oh, thank you, man. And you're going to be doing $1 Million Challenge.
Yes, my first one ever. So, and I can't wait.
Well, I hear that since you're going from San Francisco south, I think it's just all downhill. I don't think it's any big deal.
You know, the first time that I even thought of it, I'm like, well, it can't be that bad. But I living in California, I've made that drive, but I made it at night. So it was one of those where you don't really see the degree of climbing that will be involved. And of course, you're driving. So I've reached out to several people that have done the ride, and you know, after seeing the amount of, you know, one day 112 miles with 7,800 feet of climbing, I'm like, all right, now, you know, I've done this. You know, we pushed ourselves when we crossed the country, and done RAGBRAI multiple times. And so I'm like, I'm up for the challenge, but I know it is a challenge.
No question about it. And when did you first come to the San Diego Triathlon Challenge? Was that just a few years after your accident, or number of years?
It had to be 2011.
Okay.
It was my first full year racing was 2012. My first race was the Sadler's race in Alaska. That was the first race I ever did. Yep. And I was hooked. And then I met Gerard, and he told me about this camp they had here in Tucson. and challenged athletes. Their big greatest day in triathlon every year in October. And I went to that, and I met a few people there who to this day I'm still great friends with.
I love that. Matthew, you're going to have a great time riding down the coast. It is like the ultimate 5-star ride. Every day your masseuse is waiting for you at the end of your ride. Your mechanic is tuning up your bike. Your bags are in your 5-star hotel room. This was as close to being a professional cyclist as anybody's going to get. It's pretty cool.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Cycling was never in my my bag of toys until I got paralyzed and got that first hand cycle. And it's one of those things that it really is my go-to, whether I ride daily or whatever. The worst day in the world, it gets fixed when I get on that bike. So this $1 million challenge gives me 7 days to challenge myself, but raise some money and help bring awareness and help that next person that was in my shoes, back in 2011.
I love it. Hey, thank you so much for taking time, bud. Enjoy yourself on the trip, Matthew.
Thanks. Bob, I got to say, this was hard for me to agree to do because I would never put my name and hero in the same sentence when it comes to athletics and things like that. I think I'm a guy that if you challenge me to do something, I'm say when, let's do it. But and I'd like to think that I do it more so for me and whatever. But the fact that what you guys are doing allows us to be seen as, somebody who might make that next person decide this is great. This is that awakening moment that I needed to get out of my depressive state or whatever. That's what I'm glad to be called that in that content, to where it's paying it forward to the next guy.
And that's what it's all about. We understand that when we help a person out, the expectation is that they help the next person out, because we're all in it for each other. So you're gonna love your trip down the coast. Appreciate everything you do to help make CAF great. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us on Heroes of Sport.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in about 3 days, I guess, right?
Exactly.
You come along. You do the ride every year also?
Usually it's during Ironman time, so I'm not able to do it. This year, I'm hopefully going to get up there for a couple of days.
Oh, great. I can't wait to meet you in person. And yeah, I'm so excited. Today, I'm actually, as soon as we get done, I got to go do a shakedown ride on the bike. I made a couple minor changes, nothing that you would not want to do before the ride. And then I got to finish packing up, and I'll hit the road tomorrow afternoon and drive halfway, and then or 3/4 away, whatever. And then I'll be in San Francisco in the afternoon on Friday. Can't wait.
Love it. Matthew, thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
Thanks, sir. Have a good night.
Again, Heroes of Sport, CF Heroes of Sport. My name is Bob Babbitt. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. See ya.